Welcome back. It's Brooke Mackey Jones. This module is called The Dig. And this module is we're gonna dig in and dig up everything that isn't you. Okay. Before we get started though, I have a story for you. A little while back, we were on a family vacation. We were up in Montana. We were staying in this super cute Airbnb, and my son and my husband were playing hide and go seek. And Patrick, my husband, is the ultimate multitasker. So he was both playing and cooking dinner. So he threw this big blue blanket over his head. And my son, Gavin, he searched everywhere. He was looking in closets, under beds, and every nook and cranny. And when he would come to the kitchen, Patrick would crouch down and pull the blanket over his head just right in front of the stove. This bright blue blanket. Gavin could not see the 200-pound man in the middle of the kitchen. This happened multiple times. The search went on for a good 10 minutes, and then finally, Patrick started making noise. He started being actually rather loud and deliberate with it. And finally, Gavin found him. And I was sitting there and I was just chuckling to myself because what a good analogy. All of us have some deeply rooted, hidden issues. We can't see them. They're in our unconscious space, despite the fact that they're often as big as a 200-pound man in a big blue blanket. Everyone else around you can see them. They're taking up a lot of space that could be filled with joy, connection, love, bliss, harmony, and we have a sense that it's there. So oftentimes we'll go out and we'll hunt and we'll look around a bit and we'll find lots of things, but we won't find that big lump of a blue blanket hiding in the kitchen. But that big blue lump, it can't just hang out there forever. So it will start to do some things to get your attention. So it can be found and uncovered and released. It will start to holler. It'll make noise. Sometimes it shows up as issues in your relationships, issues in communication, your work, your finances, your well-being. And you can feel its presence, but it's a blind spot. So for the life of you, you can't find it. Here's the deal. We can't see our own shit. It's a blind spot. We can only see through our own perspective, and we can only find what we're looking for. Gavin was looking for Patrick, not a big blue blanket. Transformation and healing does not happen in a vacuum. No one can heal you. You're the one that does the work. However, it's necessary to have people or a program in your corner to help you uncover your blind spots. You need someone to point out that big blue blanket in the kitchen. And that's why we're here. So welcome to The Dig. Let's get started. Okay, so first off, what if I told you that you are not who you think you are? Our society has taught us that who and what we are is based off of where we come from and what we've done. From infancy, we've been caught in a tug of war of trying to fit in, trying to please others in order to gain their love and attention. We've done all sorts of crazy things to try to define our identity or to run from it. Most of us have a completely skewed view of who we really are. Don't believe me? What if I asked you what you say about yourself? How would you describe you? Now, compare that to what your best friend or your kid might say about you. Is there a discrepancy? Most people are living in an identity crisis. Most people are attempting to define who they are off of something external, something outside of themselves. But what if I told you you are not who you think you are? What if I told you that you're not your old programming, your beliefs, no matter how real they feel, that you're not your failures, you are not your degrees, your certifications, or your accomplishments? What if I told you you're not your weight? How many people say, I'm fat? No, you might have fat, but that's not who you are. You don't say, I am fingernails. What if you're not actually your bank account status, or what they said about you, or what you did or didn't do? What if you're not your past traumas? None of that is who you really are. However, you've used all of those things to make conclusions and decisions about yourself, your life, and what's possible for you. Those conclusions and decisions are what have shaped and created your life to this point. So you'll see here, I have a tree, and the roots are all of this other stuff. So if you have all of this stuff in your root structure, it is severely impacting the health of the plant, the health of your being. And it's dictating your identity and your structure, and then what's available to grow, what fruit and fruitfulness is available for your life. These conclusions and these beliefs, they're the lenses through which you see the world. They alter your perspective, and your perspective is what creates your reality. Which means, this is the good news, if we can alter your perspective and delete the conclusions and decisions that are not serving you, we can alter your entire reality, and we can do so quickly. So most of these things have been around for a long time. Most of your life, prior to age 6 or 7, you were a sponge. You were in a hypnotic learning state. So you were just absorbing everything around you. The thoughts, the words, the actions, the energies, the limitations, the judgments, the beliefs, the trauma, the drama, the bullshit, and everything in between from the people around you. Now, I want to preface this with, they were doing the best that they could with what they knew at the time, and is it really serving you now? And prior to coming into this body, your soul also had predetermined what it needed to learn in this lifetime. So your soul brought with it oaths, vows, contracts from other lifetimes, good, bad, ugly, wonderful, whatever experience you were born into, your soul, your higher self, your being actually chose that. And you were so steeped in it that it actually feels like you. It actually feels like who you are. And because it feels like who you are, you've created a whole reality around it to confirm that that is so. So you've created your entire world around that false identity in one of two ways. You have either duplicated it or you have defied it and chosen the opposite. So when you duplicate, that's where, I really loved this about my parents and I'm going to do the same thing. And you might not say that, but that's what shows up. Or maybe you grew up and you really didn't like how your parents were. So you're in total opposition and you're defying them. You're going the other direction. Either way, whether you're defying or you're duplicating, you have created an existence that is limited. Those are just two choices on a field of infinite possibility. And both limit what you can actually create for yourself and for your life. So this isn't a problem. None of this is a problem. You can actually choose to create your life however you wish. However, if you found yourself here, it's likely because something feels off or something feels like it's missing, and you know that more is possible. So what we're going to do this week is get really clear on everything that you're not so you can release it. Then from that space of clarity, you're free to actually choose what would work for you and your life and create that. Not from some old outdated program that's been running on autopilot. All right, programming, perception, and reality. You're programmed. You've been on autopilot. This autopilot program has been running in the background and it has been dictating your life. It's automatic. It's a neural pathway superhighway in your brain that before you can even think about it, you're already going to that conclusion. You're already going into that behavior. It is automatic. And most people don't even realize that it's happening. It's why we started the conversation about awareness last week, because when you become aware, then you can actually begin to cultivate a shift in your life. And most people have no idea how much power and control of their own life they're giving up by allowing the autopilot programming to run the show. So how do you know if this is you, and how do you identify the old programming that's running, and how do you begin to make a different choice? So I want you to look at how many times have you tried to change the patterns in your life to no avail? How many diets, relationships, new jobs, each one with this hope that maybe this one is the answer, only to find yourself floundering and falling on your face yet again. Thank you, old programming. And this old programming, this old baggage that you've been dragging around with you everywhere, the stuff that's been so scary to look at, as long as you push it away and you allow it to collect dust in the corner, it will continue to run and ruin your life. You will either marry it, you will work for it, you will give birth to it, or it will show up in your body as disease. All right. We need to talk a little bit about emotions because they're going to start to bubble up this week. And, I think a lot of us were raised in families with people that were not tapped into their own emotion. And so they had a hard time dealing with ours. And so maybe as a kid, you were upset or you were scared and your primary caregiver brushed you off or told you to get over it or told you to buck up or don't cry or don't be angry. They stifled you and your expression in some way. So we learned from a young age that, when that stuff comes up, that we need to stuff it down and we need to numb it out. Well, here's the problem. Emotions are energy in motion. They're actually meant to flow through you. And when you stuff them down or numb them out, they actually create blockages, energetic blockages within your being, whether that's in your spiritual, your mental, your emotional, or your physical body. It will create a block. So then you're trying to create your life and you're trying to pull, because this is how creation works. You pull energy down through the universe into the physical plane to actualize what you would like to have it actually show up. But if you've got, here's the energy, you're calling it down, but you've got a block, the energy is going to ping and bounce off and create all kinds of crazy things that are not actually what you're looking for. So this week, we're going to begin to allow the emotion to flow again. And the first thing that I want you to do is I just want you to be with it. If you've got emotion that's coming up, it's coming up because it's ready to be released. It's ready to flow. And you are not it, by the way. You are not the emotion that you're feeling. You are not the situation. You are not the circumstance. You're actually much bigger than that. You're an infinite being and you are simply observing. So if you can take on this observer role and allow the emotion to flow, what you're going to find is that as the emotion flows and flows through you, it actually has space to flow out of you. And then there's room. So if you've been walking around with, this lump in your chest, this lump of anxiety, this pit in your stomach of despair, and you actually let that flow and come out of you. You let the tears come out. You let the anger come out. You give yourself permission to feel it and to express it, you're going to find that in its place, you find space, you find room, you find ease. Okay. The other piece is actually identifying what emotions and what energies have been showing up on repeat can set you free. So in that hypnotic state when you were younger, you picked up a perpetual way of being from your caregivers. For me, it was annoyance and avoidance. And I picked this up from my mom and my dad when I was really little. I just had this big epiphany about it, actually. It's probably 2 to 3. And my mom was so annoyed with my dad. They split up 3 times before they got divorced when I was 6, and she was annoyed with him. She was annoyed with the world. She still is. That is her primary energetic and emotional state of being. Now, my dad didn't want to deal with her annoyance, and so he avoided it. And I thought that being annoyed and avoiding were how you dealt with the world. And so I didn't know it, but I had made that my primary way of being, which is really interesting when you look at like being in a relationship or running a business or having a life that you love. If you're constantly annoyed or avoiding, right, like you're not going to get what you want. It's just not very fun. So we're going to begin to become aware of where you're energetically or emotionally stuck. What is your primary thing? And then I have this really cool tool, this emotional guidance scale that you can actually utilize to create some energetic movement, some motion, some emotion in your life. And what I invite you to do is to just get real. So sometimes we have a tendency to exaggerate. Please say I'm not the only one. Sometimes I'll be like, I'm so angry right now. I'm irate. And then I look at it and I look at this chart and actually I'm not that. I'm just irritated. There's my annoyance, right? But irritation is not nearly as intense of an emotion as being irate or angry. And I've already moved up the emotional scale. And the more that you're able to move up the emotional scale, the better creative power you have in your life. So this upward spiral that you see on the left, this is the space where you'd really like to be more of the time. This is the space, these are the feelings that you want to choose to include in your life. And when they pop up, milk it, cultivate it, feed it, enjoy the moment. Okay? Because the more that you're able to feel that, the more that you'll create more of that in your life. And let's get real. That's why you're here. You want to feel better. You want to have a better existence, a more fulfilling life. All right. So we have to shut down the old program. It's just kind of like an app on your phone. We're going to get rid of the old one. And then we're going to install a new program, a new way of being. The first step to doing that is you have to become aware of the old program. And you can only change what you're willing to acknowledge. So you're going to begin, and we started this in the last module, but we're going to go deeper. We're really going to dig in this week. And we're going to begin to acknowledge what is actually so. And I just invite you, get uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. And if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. You're actually in that old familiar zone that I call the uncomfort zone, the ew zone. It's familiar, but there's no growth there. And I'm going to invite you over the next few days as you do this work to begin to unpack those boxes and take a look at what baggage you've been carrying around and what's actually so. And you're going to discover all sorts of things. You're going to discover things long ago hidden. Old hurts, mishaps, unspoken truths, unfelt emotions. Let it start to bubble up. And as it does, just notice that it is there. Become aware of it. Become aware of the impact of holding on to it. Is this thing really serving your life? And then next week, we'll get into letting it go. And here's the really cool thing about this work. You might have been dragging around stuff for a very, very long time, likely decades. However, when you become aware of it and you become willing to choose something different, we can change it in an instant. And you're going to be amazed by this process and how much ease these things that have been blocking you just begin to dissolve and fall away. So that's next week. It's coming. I admire your mettle. I admire your showing up for yourself. This is profound work, and I hope you have a most excellent week. We'll be chatting soon.